Because once again, we've lucked out here, and at least one of our goofy gun grabbers will dovetail nicely into today's conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so number 15, Doc. Here we go. This is from a guy named Alan Franklin. Oh, look at that. He has a Ukrainian flag. Well, we need to make a little chart of leftist lunacy and what each of these little icons that they insist on putting in their names actually means with regards to leftist lunacy. All right. So anyway,
I don't think we could do that simply because all the bleeps required for it. I think we just got to assume, just point out to the fact that it's obviously there and we know it.
Yeah. All right, so old Alan was responding to a CBS Colorado news report on X talking about gun owners and groups sue Colorado governor over the homemade ghost gun law, right? So basically, states are trying to pass laws that would ban the private manufacturing of firearms, something American citizens have been able to do since our founding. It's never been a problem, but yet that's just one more thing. They look for low-hanging fruit. They think that they can convince the general public it's a bad thing and we can just take this one thing away. It's that incrementalism I've talked about many times. They'll go for that low-hanging fruit, working their way towards a complete ban. So Alan chimed in with this news report saying, and he thought he was being witty here, I think, if you're against the ban on ghost guns, you in essence believe there should be no background check on gun purchases whatsoever. You believe you should be able to pick up a gun at an Ace Hardware next to the hammers. It would be nice for our MGO. I don't even know what that means. Just to admit this.
Rocky Mountain gun owners.
Oh, okay. Rocky Mountain gun owners. It'd be nice if they admit that. And then if you take a look at my comment down below, it says, finally, one of these goons figures it out. Yes! Yeah. We do want, because just before, I mean, it didn't happen in my time, used to be. Right? I'm not that old. But the generation before me, my mother could walk into, or father could walk into an Ace Hardware and literally buy a gun. They could get in the Sears catalog and order a gun and have it delivered to their doorstep. And guess what we didn't have news stories about back then? Wild mass shootings and we're all gonna die. It was just normal. So yeah, that is what we want there, Alan. You got it.
You nailed it.
You kind of backed in. You started off in the stupid and you backed into some little hint of intelligence, but I still don't think he figured out that he backed into something inadvertently there and got something right.
Right. But that's the funny part about that is, two things. One, the reason that he said RMGO here and he referenced Rocky Mountain gun owners because they're the ones that did the lawsuit.
Yeah, and it's a Colorado CBS story.
When it was,
right.
Yeah, when it was implemented on the 1st. But the other thing here is, this is just to give you guys some perspective. Some of you watching this would already know this. Some of you have experienced it. Some of you heard about it. They used to sell like the most valuable handguns, or not even handguns, most valuable revolvers on the market today. Like Colt Pythons are pretty high up there. They used to sell those next to the hammers.
Oh yeah.
At Ace Hardwares. They used to do that in all hardware shops. You could go down to a hardware store and you would get your nails, your hammers, your pipe tape, and then literally you could buy a gun right there.
And ammunition.
To Tim's point, and ammo, right? With none of the things that we have now. And you could also have them shipped to your door with no FFL at all. They were literally shipped to your door through things that were sponsored by the government, like the Civilian Marksman Program.
Yep.
Like all the surplus from all the wars that we had, you could order it through the Sears catalog. It would come by railway and deliver directly to your door. I actually have a carbine from World War II that my grandfather bought in that manner.
Yeah, and you want to hear something even funnier? Is that companies would send you the gun to your house through the USPS, and then you would pay the postman at the time of delivery, so you didn't have to pay up front. You could literally pay the postman when they dropped the package off. You could pay for your gun.
COD, baby.
And
COD.
And I mean, that's how far this went back in the day. And then this guy's over here hand-wringing about the idea of you can make your own gun. You poor little thing.
Well, I think it's from a lack of knowledge, and it's a lack of even fathoming anything beyond complete and utter control. Like, I think what this guy is exhibiting is the exact reason that slow frog analogy exists. He doesn't even know where we came from.
Yeah.
To the point where we are now, and he still wants to go further so that in 20 years from now, the idea that people would make their own guns would be unconscionable to the population.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Oh, absolutely.
They're incrementally moving you away from this. The founding of our nation, before any of the things that we just mentioned in the Ace Hardwares, A rifle was invented in Kentucky because German immigrants made their own guns, and they rifled the inside of the barrel, and it was all of a sudden a better piece of technology, and that's how the West was won. That's how the entire nation was founded, was because rifling existed. It's just the lack of experience and knowledge is really annoying.
Ever heard of the phrase sharpshooter? Where do you think that comes from?
I have.
That is an American phrase coming from American riflemen that used Sharps rifles.
The Sharps, right? I think the actual company was a Sharps.
Yep.
It was a knife, right? Very sharp.
It was a sharp. It was a hypodermic needle. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Americans have a long storied tradition of not just manufacturing their own firearms, but owning firearms, carrying firearms, having firearms. It was how our nation was founded. It is how we've the fact that American soldiers, Marines and soldiers, are known the world over for our marksmanship capabilities.
Yeah.
Do you think we're born with that capability? No. We grow up in that. America has for generations made warfighters that had the ability to accurately fire their weapons, and that came from their own use of those firearms as a kid growing up, hunting and target shooting and things like that. Our own government has even encouraged this in the past through the civilian marksmanship program, where you could go and the government would train you for free on marksmanship, and at the end, you would get an M1 Garand, a weapon we used during World War II in Korea. And now these idiots come along and pretend like none of that ever happened, and like, oh my gosh, you can make your own. We got to stop this. This is lunacy. They're nut jobs. They don't even know our own history, to your point.
They don't know our history. I think, Tim, this is just us planning the show actually in real time. I think you've mentioned it, we should do some episodes around this type of stuff because I think that's extremely valuable to spread. But to your point, the reason that we are renowned, the reason the Marines are known as devil dogs, is because they were picking Germans off in World War I in the Battle of Belleau Wood from 300 yards when the modern engagement at the time was around 75 to 100.
Yep.
I mean, and that's not because we were all of a sudden these magical ballisticians. It was because we had a history of feeding our families and growing up with the Second Amendment so that we could be more effective in defending freedom for ourselves or others. Take it however you want it, whether it was a good idea or not. I'm not saying that. I do find it interesting, though, that Woodrow Wilson and FDR, both Democratic progressives, led us into World War I and II. We're going to leave that one alone. But the whole point here is there's a reason that it exists.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I felt that was like a Braden rant. Was that
was
close?
Good, man.
Was that a Braden rant?
I think we got a Braden rant in.
That's good.
Just
That's
before
good.
number
Well, let's
16.
go to the next one.
Yes, Doc.
Yeah.
Throw up number 16 for us. And this is from our friends over at 97% over on X, another gun grabbing group that pretends they're not really a gun grabbing group. No, folks, they're just there for public safety. They want you to keep your guns. They love the Second Amendment, but they just think it should be heavily regulated per their own words. So what did old 97% have to say? Well, we believe in the right to bear arms. Oh, yeah, of course. Just, Marxists never lie to you. We also believe in common sense gun regulation. Let's translate that. What does common sense gun regulation mean to you, Braden? What ideas, what have they proposed as common sense gun regulations in the past? They being the anti-gunners.
Well, let's see. Common sense has always seemed to align directly, and correct me if I'm wrong, seemed to align directly with the gun control side of the aisle. Like for things like the NICS background check system, we had the 1986 machine gun ban, we had the Gun Control Act, we had the 1934 NFA. All of these things were common
The 94
sense.
assault weapons ban.
Oh my
ban?
goodness, I forgot about that one. I forgot about that one.
Ban?
Common
They
sense.
always try to back away from the B word now. They won't use it anymore.
Well, now it's common sense.
Now it's the
But it is common sense.
assault weapon safety proposal, right?
Yeah.
It's not. We're
But
not
I
banning
do-
them. We just want them to be safe,
Yeah.
right? So anyway,
It's common sense.
Right, it's just all common sense. And then to continue on, from violent misdemeanor laws to red flag laws, we can save lives without infringing on constitutional rights. Inaction is not a solution. So let's look at that last sentence, shall we? Red flag laws will save lives without infringing on constitutional rights. Now, I'm guessing they're talking about the Second Amendment, but there's one other constitutional right they seem to be overlooking, that they always overlook when they have this conversation about yellow and red flag laws. Doc, if you could throw up number 17. Let's do a little civics lessons here, shall we, folks? The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. I'm going to get right to the yellow part, and because this is relevant to the discussion. Nor shall be compelled, talking about Americans, you shall not be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against yourself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. What is due process? You're accused of a crime, but assumed innocent of said crime. You go to court. Then a jury of your peers will decide your guilt or innocence. If you're decided to be guilty, then you are a convicted criminal, and then they can take away your property. They cannot take away your property constitutionally without said process.
Particularly ones that are Second Amendment related.
Well, yeah, you got the Second and Fifth working here that they're going against.
Well, no, of course. But I'm saying the Fifth protects what they're doing to the Second. And it's like you're violating 2 amendments of the Bill of Rights. You're not doing it right. And the thing that bothers me about this, and like, dude, we've talked about this a couple times. I've done it on my channel. You've talked about it. The idea of a red flag law is one of the most concerning things that they push, because it's one of the things that undermines so many pieces of our constitutional protections in one blow. Like, you could argue from a standpoint of the mandatory waiting periods. Okay, well, that's Second Amendment related. That is still bad. However, it's only living in the Second Amendment space, because you're saying, well, you're going to have your rights still, but there's a waiting period determined by the state. Do you get a license? Do you have a background check? All these pieces which are unconstitutional, but it lives within that Second Amendment framework. The red flag laws and the yellow flag laws, they go past due process. They go past the Second Amendment rights. They go through so many different amendments, and they're just running roughshod under the idea and guise of providing safety. It is really concerning that people are just like, oh, well, that makes so much sense. The government will provide that safety. And it's like, do you guys remember anything from history?
No.
Like, anything?
But this is why they're destroying our schools. This is why they don't teach like civics. This is why they don't tell people about their rights and talk about American history. They try to strip all that out of the teachings so that they can propagandize our children to the end of they will believe this nonsense. That, oh yeah, it's just common sense. Oh, this isn't an infringement on anybody's rights. This is just common sense. Because they don't have any reference. They're not educated. They're purposely dumbed down, and they'll buy into this nonsense and just go, oh, okay, well, here you go. You can have my rights. I don't need them.
Right. No, it really is sad. And you know, one of the things that I think it's an important thing, and we're doing so many projects behind the scenes, and the Second Amendment space is growing so amazingly well. But one of the things that I think is so important to understand is not only that history piece, but also understand what these people are doing. Take it outside of the Second Amendment, take it outside of the due process, the red flag, all those concerns, which are obviously huge concerns. Look at what they're doing on a very base level. Let's just look at the 1934 NFA. This is a really great example. They've told you, and we've covered on this channel multiple times, the entire point was to price you out of your rights. That was the whole point. Well,
and to slowly make them go away.
It'll be too expensive.
Yep.
Correct. It'll slowly make them go away. Let's just take suppressors, for example. That's a good example. It's part of the NFA. Suppressors have no impact on the deathly ability of firearms. They're literally only a suppression device. So what they did was they put something that is not a firearm, that is nothing to do with increasing firing capacity. It literally only addresses noise, and they put it behind a tax stamp, which means you have to pay more money. You can still have your rights. Your rights are perfectly fine. They're not infringed. They're perfectly protected, but only the people who are affluent can have them.
Yeah, you only have to pay for them.
These are the exact same people.
I mean, why don't we just do the same thing at the polls? Why don't we say, hey, you're welcome to vote. Just pay us a $200 tax. You can vote for whoever you want.
Exactly.
That's freedom, baby.
Exactly.
No, that's called Jim Crow era laws and poll taxes.
Right.
The Supreme Court has held you cannot tax a constitutionally protected right. The fact that we've allowed the NFA to continue on for this long is an affront to our liberty, and it's a statement to the lackluster performance of groups like the NRA, which is precisely why we hate them.
Which is why Letitia James is clearly going to get rid of the problem and then give the money back to them and then reinvigorate the NRA. I'm here for it, Tim. Yeah. That was a hell of an episode.
It was.
I mean, with Bill Clinton all the way to Letitia James. It went a lot of places, but we landed this plane.
Maybe she'll wind up on Epstein's list. Never mind. I didn't go there. Folks, thanks for watching Second Legacy. We'll talk to you guys soon.